All right, let me get this out of the way. I know I should be wearing gear for the team I'm talking about, but I just got this hat. For anybody who remembers way back, I have a yellow Bruins hat, which has a black swish. No matter what I do with that hat, it never looks like it's even. Now I have a yellow Bruins hat that's even. And Flyers, Winter Classic, it's fantastic. So there, that's done. But I'm here to talk about Ken Hitchcock. And him being hired back by Dallas, because I cheer for Dallas. There can be people wondering, well, what's he going to think about it? What's Shannon going to have to say about it? Well, I don't know. I don't know how I feel. Hitchcock's the guy you bring in for a veteran team that you can get a quick turnaround with. Now, where Dallas is okay with this is, if Janmark comes back healthy next year, and if Nichushkin comes back wanting to play hockey, that's 2 forwards being added, and you've lost nothing to get them. But I still don't know that Dallas gets over the hump. It's funny, too, because Elliot Friedman's reporting that before making this deal, Jim Nill had to sit down and talk to Ken Hitchcock because ownership wanted Hitchcock back. And Nill didn't know Hitchcock, so they had to sit down and have dinner. Dinner, coffee, lunch, whatever they had. I'm sure the conversation was probably something along the lines of, hello, Ken, I'm Jim. Hi, Jim, I'm Ken. So, Ken, you have any questions? Yeah, are you going to get me a goalie, or are you going to leave me hung out to dry the way you left Lindy Ruff out to dry? And Nill probably answered with, I'm going to find you a goalie. And Ken said, then I will take the job. I make no bones about the fact that Lindy Ruff was left hung out to dry. But I don't know that Ken Hitchcock is the right coach for the team. He does have what I used to call the Pat Burns effect. Pat Burns, a Hall of Fame coach, and rightfully so, would come into a team, and he was all fire and brimstone. And his passion would inspire the team the first year, and they'd play really, really well. And then it would just sort of slowly go downhill. And I watched Pat Burns as a coach. I loved Pat Burns as a coach. His fights when he was pissed off were the greatest. Absolutely. If you can read his lips when he's getting ready to charge over to the other bench during the playoffs, it's great. It's one of the greatest moments in history for coaches. But Hitchcock has some of the same thing. Now, I remember when Dallas parted with Hitchcock because Hitchcock had been there for the Stanley Cup. It's true. Hitchcock was there when they won the Stanley Cup. But this is from 02-03. The Dallas Stars showed this summer they truly mean business. When meeting with free agents, they pulled out a team mission statement. Proof GM Doug Armstrong paid attention in those college marketing classes. Then they showed them the money to the tune of nearly $62 million. The goal, said right winger Scott Young, one of the new additions, is to win 2 Stanley Cups. The time frame is the next 24 months, before the collective bargaining agreement ends and cost certainty or some other form of salary control begins, perhaps after a season or longer is lost in the process. But 2 cups? Even in Texas, those are mighty big expectations for a team that didn't make the playoffs for the first time in 6 seasons, and especially for a team that has bid adieu to the primary builders of a 1999 Stanley Cup team. Ex-coach Ken Hitchcock and GM Bob Gainey, both of whom left in the middle of the season. And they left with the team in disarray. Not happy. And there was a heck of a lot of anger on the team side, on management side, and something had to give. Behind the bench, this is Dave Tippett took over for Dallas. It was very good. Tippett's coaching resume isn't especially thick, but it's impressive. He led the Houston Astros Houston Aeros to the IHL's Turner Cup in 1999, then spent the past 3 years as an assistant coach in Los Angeles, where he helped forge the NHL's top-ranked power play last season. Tippett was a hard-working checker and penalty killer during an 11-year NHL career, but his coaching philosophy revolves around his skill players and putting them in positions to succeed. Tippett, 40, shrugs off the pressure for immediate success. I think our players stack up with anybody throughout the league. To set the bar lower than it should be is not right. So that's after Hitchcock left. And then he moved on. And what's interesting with Hitchcock is when you look at his record. Okay, so he was in Dallas. Dallas fired him. He went to Philly. Philly fired him. He went to Columbus. Columbus fired him. He went to St. Louis. St. Louis fired him. And now he's back in Dallas. So his first season in Dallas was a partial season. Below 500. They didn't make the playoffs. In his time in Dallas, the point totals for the Stars were 104, 109, 114, 102, and 106. And a prorated 90-point season is what got him fired. They did end up with 90 that year, too. So it didn't get better after they brought in a replacement for him. But something went wrong in Dallas. And his fiery personality tends to rub players the wrong way. So we went to Philly, 2002, 2003. 107 points, 101 points, 101 points. And then they win 1 out of their first 8 games in 06-07. Fired. 06-07. He goes to Columbus now. Coaches 62 games. So he'd been out of work for about a month. And the team was 1 game below 500 in his time there the first season. Second season, they were 2 games below 500 and didn't make the playoffs. His third season was the first season that the Columbus Blue Jackets made the playoffs, 08-09. They got swept in the first round, of course, and then the following season he was fired when they had 55 points in 58 games. He was out of hockey for about a year and a half, came in 11-12 for St. Louis. He replaced Davis Payne. Payne was not a good coach. I don't think I'm telling tales outside of class to say it. He got 97 points in 69 games for St. Louis, the team record. He didn't score 97 points. And then in the lockout shortened season, he had 60 points in 48 games. Then he had 111, 109, and 107. And then this year he had 53 in his first 50 games, and he was gone. He tends to wear out his welcome. And let's see, he was in Dallas for 6 years. 3 years and a bit in Philly. About 3 years in Columbus. 2, 3, 4, 5.5 in St. Louis. The weird thing for me is that Ken Hitchcock had announced at the start of last season, this is my last year and I'm going to retire. He's 65 years old. While he's not the oldest coach there's ever been by any stretch, he's not the guy I had expected Dallas to hire. And I don't know that it's going to improve Dallas's odds. Now you can go through the stats I just read you, and yeah, every team got better except Columbus. Columbus, it took a couple of years. And again, he can be very abrasive and tough to play for. He doesn't accept losing well. And it's weird because the way that I found out was I follow Mike Modano on Twitter, and he tweeted out that Ken Hitchcock was being hired and said, hey, Ken, if you need any help, let me know. So Mike Modano is willing to work with Ken Hitchcock. And while I joked about not bringing Mike Modano in to coach, I don't know, if he came in as an assistant, I don't know that I would mind that. I don't know if Modano was just kidding, but it was kind of an odd comment because at the time that Hitchcock left Dallas, Modano wasn't his biggest fan. A lot of players in that dressing room that he wasn't getting along with. And that happens. Part of the reason that St. Louis took off when Mike Yeo took over, it's not that Mike Yeo is a genius, it's that Ken Hitchcock was good. There was a difference in the way St. Louis played. There seemed to be more enjoyment. Hitchcock as well really is big on the whole defense, which is part of the reason why his teams do so well in the regular season. But, like, if you look at his postseason success, okay, So in Dallas, they lost in the first round. They got to the conference finals. They won the Stanley Cup. They lost in the Stanley Cup final. There's those 3 years there that Hitchcock fantastic. Then they lost in the conference semifinals, the second round. In Philly, they lost in the second round. They lost in the conference finals. Then they lost in the first round before the season where he got fired. Columbus, of course, they got swept. In St. Louis, second round, first round, first round, first round, and then last year conference finals. He has a spotty record. I can look back on that 99 Stanley Cup and say, oh, Hitchcock was fantastic that year. I just don't know that he's the right guy for this team right now. I know that next year, if Nichushkin's back and if he's motivated, and if Janmark's healthy, Dallas is going to be a better team just by that alone. It really didn't help when Janmark was out all year. Matthias Janmark was understated, the same as Erotic Faxa, and they missed him. And I know they missed Colton Sevier too. I mean, that's 3 forwards gone. And while I like Adam Cracknell, what he brought to the team, he didn't replace the scoring of any of those guys. So we'll see what happens next year. And I'm trying really hard to be optimistic about this, but it's weird. Because to me, Hitchcock's a guy you bring in when your team's close. Or when you feel like we've got a chance. Because Hitchcock isn't a long-term fix for the issue. This was a guy that coming into last season, well, this season, so in the summer of 2016, said, this is my last year coaching, I'm ready to retire. I know he wants to prove something to St. Louis because they fired him. I get that. But I don't see Dallas as necessarily a one-year fix. Again, goaltending, defense. If Nichushkin comes back, I think they should consider trading him for help on the blue line. Like, that would be fantastic. I think that Dallas needs to fix a lot of things, and I don't know that Jim Nill's the guy to do it either. That's the weird part. Apparently Jim Nill's sticking around. I don't know. I mean, Lindy Ruff wasn't an award winner in Dallas, but he can only play the hand he's dealt. And Jim Nill dealt him a crap hand at the start of the year, and apparently the idea was, well, get her done. And there's only so much you can do. So I don't know that Hitchcock is a miracle worker any more than Lindy Ruff was. Certainly the regular season record of teams that Hitchcock's coached have been intimidating. But I just don't know. So let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through. And again, as a Dallas fan, this is a day where I'm kind of befuddled. I read it and I was like, why? Why? There are so many young coaches coming up in the league right now. And no offense to Ken Hitchcock, but I really thought Dallas needed a guy that they could just take as a coach, give him a 3 or 4 year term, and just see how it goes. So I guess we'll find out. I certainly hope that Hitchcock's style doesn't grate against Ben or Sagan or any of the star players. He's been known to piss off stars before. And again, it goes back to the whole Pat Burns thing. Burns, I loved him, but man, he could wear out his welcome. Those fiery, angry coaches are great for a while. Tortorella in Columbus too. Tortorella's had a great year as coach in Columbus. And he hasn't coached any different really for Columbus than he did in Vancouver. He's just had his temper toned down a little bit. But he's still John Tortorella. He's still not a big fan of Larry Brooks. He's still likely to tell Larry Brooks off anytime he gets the chance. I wouldn't be surprised if he leaves him nasty voicemails every now and then. Probably after every win. Probably, hey, I won again tonight, Brooksy. What do you think about that? You know what? I don't care. And then hang up. Probably with a lot of F words thrown in the middle there. So, you know, I certainly hope it helps. But if this is the start of Dallas's offseason, I don't know. I really don't know. I don't know. It was 18 years ago that Stanley Cup was won. 18 years ago. They're trying to turn the clock back 18 years with this hiring. Why? Why? There's tons of young up-and-coming guys. There's guys in the American Hockey League who are itching for a job. And maybe I need to do a video on those coaches and send it to all the GMs in the league and say, look, there are plenty of coaches with good records who do really well and should get a shot at an NHL job. And not like John Anderson did with Atlanta either. That was just brutal. If a guy's going to be a really good American Hockey League coach and then get called up, saddling him with Atlanta was just cruel. But in this case, you'd be getting a Dallas team that just needs some help at the back end. The front end's fine, especially if Nichushkin and Janmark come back. But we'll see what happens. Anyways, thanks for watching, and I will be doing some more preview stuff tonight, because tonight is the big night at the start of the playoffs.